The war ended on a quiet morning. Admiral Una stood on the bridge of the horizon as the last Valoran fleet surrendered. Their ships lowered their weapons and powered down their engines. White flags appeared on every vessel. The fighting was overdone. It had taken 42 days. 42 days to defeat an empire that had ruled for 3,000 years. 42 days to change the balance of power in the entire galaxy. 42 days to prove that humanity was not a species to be threatened. Una looked out at the stars and felt nothing but exhaustion. She had not slept properly in weeks. She had made decisions that sent thousands of soldiers to fight and die. She had ordered attacks that destroyed entire stations. She had done what was necessary, but she was tired of it. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Junho softly, "High Commander Vorath is requesting permission to speak with you." Una closed her eyes for a moment. Vorath, the alien who had started all of this. The creature who had stood before the galaxy and demanded that humanity kneel. She did not want to speak with him, but she knew she had to put him through. The screen flickered and Vorath's face appeared. He looked different now. His 4 eyes were dim. His blue skin was pale. The pride that had filled his voice in the first broadcast was gone. In its place was something else. Defeat, shame, and perhaps just beginning understanding. "Admiral Una," he said. His voice was hoarse. I am here to formally surrender the Valoran Empire to humanity." Una studied him for a long moment. "Why did you do it?" she asked quietly. "Why did you threaten us? Why did you start this war?" Vorath was silent. Then he lowered his head. "We were arrogant," he admitted. "We looked at your species and saw primitives. You had only been in space for a few hundred years. Your ships were crude. Your weapons were simple. We thought you would be easy to control. And now? And now I understand that we were fools." Vorath looked up, and for the first time there was genuine emotion in his eyes. "Your ships were crude, but your pilots were fearless. Your weapons were simple, but your soldiers were relentless. We had better technology, but you had something we did not have. You had the will to win at any cost." Una nodded slowly. "We did not want this war, Vorath. We were happy exploring our corner of the galaxy. We were happy building our colonies and raising our families. You forced us to fight." "I know," Vorath said, "and I will spend the rest of my life regretting it." The surrender was accepted. The terms were fair. Humanity did not take territory from the Valoran Empire. They did not demand tribute or slaves. They simply demanded that the attacks stop and that the Empire recognize humanity as an equal in the galaxy. Some of Una's officers were angry about this. They wanted revenge. They wanted to punish the Valorans for what they had done. But Una refused. "We are not conquerors," she told them. "We are not tyrants. We fought to protect our people, not to enslave others. If we become the thing we fought against, we have truly lost." The news spread across human space like a wave. On Earth, people gathered in the streets to celebrate. On Mars and Europa and the outer colonies, fireworks lit up the sky. Soldiers embraced each other and wept with relief. Families waited at spaceports for their loved ones to return. General Taiho addressed humanity from the steps of High Command. "Today, we celebrate victory," he said. "But let us not celebrate the war itself. War is terrible. War is painful. War takes from us things that can never be replaced. We fought because we had to. We won because we refused to lose. But let us hope that we never have to fight again." His words echoed across the stars. Humanity listened, and humanity remembered. Admiral Una returned to Earth 2 weeks later. She had been offered medals and titles and positions of great power. She refused them all. She was tired of war. She was tired of command. She wanted only to rest, She stood on a beach on the eastern coast of her home country. The waves washed over her feet. The sun was warm on her face. For the first time in months, she felt peace. "It is beautiful here." Yuna turned. Hana stood behind her, the strategist who had planned the invasion of Valorum Prime. She looked different now, too. The intensity in her eyes had softened. The war had changed them all. "It is," Yuna agreed. "I missed it." They stood together in silence, watching the waves. "What happens now?" Hannah asked finally. "Now we rebuild," Yuna said. "We heal. We try to become better than we were before." "And the galaxy?" Yuna smiled slightly. "The galaxy will remember. They will remember what we did. They will remember that we could have conquered them, but chose not to. That memory will keep us safe for a long time." Across the galaxy, the other species were indeed remembering. The Galactic Council had expanded to include humanity as a permanent member. Trade agreements were being signed. Cultural exchanges were being planned. The fear that had gripped the stars was slowly giving way to something else. Hope on Valorum Prime. The reconstruction had begun. Human engineers worked alongside Valoran builders to repair the damage from the siege. Former enemies were learning to become partners. It was awkward and difficult, but it was happening. High Commander Vorath, now stripped of his rank, worked in a school teaching young Valorans about the history of the war. He did not hide the truth. He did not make excuses. He told them exactly what had happened and exactly why it had happened. "We underestimated humanity," he told his students. "We saw their short history and their primitive technology, and we thought they were weak. We did not understand that their short history was a history of survival against impossible odds. We did not understand that their primitive technology was born from a world that constantly tried to kill them. We did not understand that the most dangerous creature in the universe is not the one with the biggest claws. It is the one that refuses to give up." The students listened. The students learned. And slowly, understanding grew between the two species. Years passed. Humanity continued to grow and explore. They discovered new worlds and made new friends. They faced new challenges and overcame new obstacles. But they never forgot the lessons of the war. Admiral Yuna became a teacher herself. She taught young officers about strategy and leadership. But more than that, she taught them about mercy. She taught them about restraint. She taught them that true strength was knowing when not to fight. "The galaxy knows what we can do," she told her students. "They know that we can destroy anything that threatens us. But they also know that we choose not to. That choice is what makes us worthy of respect. That choice is what makes us truly human." One day, many years later, a young alien diplomat asked Ambassador Sumi a question. "Why did humanity not conquer the galaxy after the war? You had the power. You had the opportunity. Why did you stop?" Sumi smiled her gentle smile. "Because that was never what we wanted," she said. "We wanted to be left alone. We wanted to live in peace. We wanted to raise our children and explore the stars and build a better future. War was forced upon us. Victory was earned by us. But peace was chosen by us." The diplomat nodded slowly. "You are strange creatures, you humans." "Perhaps," Sumi agreed. "But we are also honest creatures. We never wanted war. We never wanted power over others. We simply wanted to be treated as equals. And now we are." She looked out the window at the stars stretching endlessly into the void. "The galaxy learned an important lesson from us," she said softly. "They learned that the most lethal species alive is also capable of the greatest kindness. They learned that power and mercy can exist together. They learned that peace is always better than war. But that war should never be feared when it is necessary." She turned back to the young diplomat and her eyes sparkled with quiet pride. They knocked on our door with weapons raised. We answered, and then we chose to put our weapons down. That is who we are. That is what humanity means. The stars continued to burn. The galaxy continued to spin. And humanity continued to live among the stars, remembered forever as the species that won the greatest war in history, and then chose peace. They had proven that they were the most dangerous creatures in the universe, and they had proven that they were also the most worthy of trust. The story ended, but humanity's journey had only just begun. The Galactic Council met for the first time in 50 years. They gathered on a neutral station at the center of the known universe. Representatives from 100 different species filled the great hall. They came in all shapes and sizes. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some had no bodies at all and existed only as patterns of light. All of them were afraid. Ambassador Sumi represented humanity at the council. She was a small woman with white hair and gentle eyes. She looked harmless. She looked peaceful. But everyone in the room knew what her species had done in the past month. The Valoran Empire, one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, had been brought to its knees. Their capital had fallen. Their fleets had been scattered. Their leaders were prisoners of war. And the humans had done it all in less than 30 days. This council called this meeting to discuss the human situation, said the High Speaker, a tall creature with silver skin and 6 arms. We must decide what to do about this development. Ambassador Trill of the Korvax Collective rose from his seat. He was a being made of crystal, and his voice rang like bells when he spoke. What is there to discuss? He demanded. The humans have proven themselves to be the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They must be stopped before they destroy us all. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the hall. Several other ambassadors nodded their heads or made gestures of support. Sumi remained calm. She had expected this reaction. She had prepared for it. May I speak? She asked politely. The High Speaker hesitated. He was clearly uncomfortable. The protocol demanded that every species be allowed to address the council. You may speak, Ambassador. Sumi stood slowly. She looked around the room at all the frightened faces. These creatures had conquered planets. They had built empires. They had ruled the stars for thousands of years. And now they were afraid of humans. You are right to be concerned, she said. Her voice was soft but carried to every corner of the hall. Humanity is dangerous. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day. We survived ice ages and volcanoes. We survived predators and plagues. We survived each other. We are, as you say, the most lethal species alive. The room was completely silent. But you are wrong about one thing, Sumi continued. We do not want to destroy you. We do not want to conquer you. We did not start this war. The Valorans came to us with threats and demands. They told us to surrender or die. We simply refused. Ambassador Trill's crystals rattled with anger. You expect us to believe that? After what you did to Valoran Prime? Yes, Sumi said simply. Because it is the truth. Humanity has never attacked anyone without being attacked first. We have never invaded anyone who did not threaten us. We are not conquerors. We are survivors. She paused and looked directly at the High Speaker. But make no mistake. If anyone threatens our people, we will respond. We will respond with everything we have. We will not stop until the threat is eliminated. That is what the Valorans learned. That is what this council should remember. The threat was clear. The warning was given. And everyone in the room understood it perfectly. On the horizon, Commander Sungwoo watched the council meeting on his screen. He was the head of human military intelligence. It was his job to know everything that happened in the galaxy. The council is scared, reported Captain Jiho, his assistant. They are talking about forming an alliance against us. Sunwoo nodded. He had expected this as well. When smaller creatures see a predator, they often band together for protection. It was natural. It was logical. But it was also futile. Let them talk, Sunwoo said. Let them plan. They can form all the alliances they want. It will not change anything. Sir? Sunwoo turned to face his young captain. The Valorans had the largest fleet in the galaxy. They had thousands of years of experience. They had technology that was supposed to be centuries ahead of ours. And we defeated them in a month. Do you really think a group of frightened diplomats can do better? Jiho considered this. No, sir. I suppose not. The galaxy is learning a lesson right now, Sunwoo said. They are learning that humans are not to be challenged. They are learning that peace with us is the only safe option. This is good. This will prevent future wars. He touched a button on his console and opened a channel to all human forces in the area. This is Commander Sunwoo. I am broadcasting a message to the Galactic Council and to every civilization in known space. Listen carefully. His voice was calm and steady. It carried no anger and no pride. It was simply a statement of fact. Humanity did not choose this war. We were attacked by the Valoran Empire. We defended ourselves. We won. This is not a demonstration of aggression. This is a demonstration of capability. We can reach anywhere. We can strike anyone. We can defeat any force that threatens us. He paused to let his words sink in. But we do not wish to be your enemies. We wish to live in peace. We wish to trade and explore and grow alongside you. We offer friendship to any species that offers friendship to us. But we also offer a warning. If you knock on our door with threats, we will answer. And you will not like our answer. The message spread across the galaxy. Every species heard it. Every leader analyzed it. Every military commander reviewed the data from the human victory over the Valorans. And slowly, the mood in the council chamber began to change. Ambassador Reth of the Sindari Union stood. He was an old creature with tired eyes and wrinkled gray skin. His species had been in the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had seen empires rise and fall. They knew how to read power. I believe the humans, he said quietly. I have studied their history. They have never attacked without provocation. Every war they have fought has been defensive. They are not conquerors. They are defenders. You would side with them? Demanded Ambassador Trill. I would recognize reality, Reth replied. The humans could have destroyed the Valoran Empire completely. They did not. They captured the capital and demanded surrender. They showed mercy when they did not have to. That tells me something about their character. More ambassadors began to nod. The fear was still there, but it was mixing with something else. Respect, understanding, perhaps even hope. Sumi watched the shift with quiet satisfaction. This was what humanity wanted. Not war, not conquest. Just recognition. Just respect. Just the understanding that they were not to be threatened. The humans have taught us a lesson today, said the High Speaker slowly. Perhaps it is a lesson we needed to learn. Perhaps we have been too comfortable in our power. Perhaps we forgot that the galaxy is a dangerous place. He looked directly at Sumi. We will not form an alliance against you, Ambassador. Instead, we offer peace. We offer trade. We offer the opportunity to work together for the good of all species. Sumi smiled gently. That is all we ever wanted. In the command room of the Horizon, Commander Sunwoo leaned back in his chair. The war was not quite over yet. There were still Valoran forces that refused to surrender. There were still battles to be fought, but the larger victory had been won. The galaxy now understood what humanity was. They understood that peace was possible, but that war was foolish. They understood that humans were not prey. "Send a message to Admiral Yuna," Sungwoo said. "Tell her the diplomatic situation is resolved. Tell her she can proceed with the final phase. The end was coming, and humanity would write it on their own terms." Hannah was not a soldier. She had never fired a weapon. She had never worn armor or commanded troops in battle. But she was the most dangerous human in the entire fleet. She was a strategist. She saw patterns where others saw chaos. She understood enemy movements before they happened. She had spent her entire life studying war, not to fight it, but to win it before the first shot was fired. When Admiral Yuna asked her to plan the invasion of Valorum Prime, Hannah smiled and said yes. She sat in a small room filled with screens and data. Maps of enemy territory covered every wall. Reports from spy ships and captured communications filled her tablet. She had not slept in 3 days. She did not need to. Her mind was too busy building the perfect attack. "The Valorans are scared," she said to the officers gathered around her. "Captain Minho's strikes have shaken them. They are pulling their fleets back to protect their core systems. This is exactly what we wanted." General Taiho nodded from his seat. He had come all the way from Earth to hear this plan. "What do you propose?" Hannah touched her tablet, and a hologram of Valoran Prime appeared in the center of the room. The planet rotated slowly, showing its cities and defenses. "They expect us to attack from space," she said. "They have rebuilt their orbital defenses after Captain Minho's raid. They have positioned their largest fleet around the planet. A direct assault would cost us too many ships." "Then how do we attack?" asked Admiral Yuna. Hannah smiled. "We do not attack from above. We attack from below." She zoomed in on a small moon orbiting Valoran Prime. It was a dead rock with no value. The Valorans ignored it completely. 200 years ago, this moon had mining operations. The Valorans abandoned it when the minerals ran out. But the tunnels are still there. And those tunnels lead to a point directly beneath the capital city. The room was silent. Everyone stared at the hologram. "You want to land troops on the moon," General Taiho said slowly. "Then move them through underground tunnels to the surface of the planet." "Yes," Hannah said. "They will never see us coming. By the time they realize what is happening, our soldiers will be in their streets." It was a bold plan. It was a risky plan. But it was exactly the kind of plan that humans were good at. Humanity had always been creative in war. They had always found ways to attack from angles that no one expected. The operation began too. Weeks later, transport ships carried 10,000 human soldiers to the abandoned moon. They landed in secret, hiding their ships inside the old mining stations. Then they began the long march through the dark tunnels. Lieutenant Commander Hyuk led the ground forces. He was a large man with a calm voice and steady hands. He had fought in battles on 3 different worlds before this war. He knew how to lead soldiers through impossible situations. The tunnels were dark and cold. Water dripped from the ceiling. Strange creatures scurried in the shadows. But the human soldiers moved forward without fear. They had trained for this. They had prepared for everything. "Keep moving," Hugh said over the radio. "We have 12 hours to reach the exit point." Above them, Admiral Yuna launched a distraction attack. Her fleet engaged the Valoran defenders in orbit. Explosions lit up the sky. Energy beams crossed the void. The Valorans focused all their attention on the battle above. They did not look down. They did not see the army crawling beneath their feet. Hannah watched the operation from her command room on the horizon. Every soldier had a tracker. Every team had a camera. She could see everything that was happening in real time. "Team Alpha has reached checkpoint 3, reported a technician. Team Beta is 10 minutes behind. SCHEULE but recovering. Team. Gamma reports no enemy contact. Hannah nodded. So far, everything was going according to plan. But she knew that war never went perfectly. Something would go wrong. Something always went wrong. The question was whether they could adapt when it happened. The problem came 6 hours into the march. A section of tunnel collapsed, blocking the path of Team Delta. 3 soldiers were injured. The rest were stuck behind tons of rock with no way forward. Reroute them through Tunnel 7, Hannah ordered immediately. It adds 2 hours to their journey, but connects back to the main path. The officers around her scrambled to update the orders. Within minutes, Team Delta was moving again. The collapse had cost them time, but it had not stopped them. Finally, after 11 hours of marching through darkness, the first soldiers reached the exit point. It was a forgotten maintenance shaft that opened in a park near the center of the capital city. The Valorans had built their government buildings all around it. They had never imagined that enemies would emerge from the ground beneath their monuments. HFY was the first one out. He climbed up the ladder and pushed open the metal cover. Cool night air rushed over his face. Above him, stars burned in a purple sky. Around him, alien buildings rose like crystals toward the heavens. All teams, he whispered into his radio. We are in position. Begin the operation. Human soldiers poured out of tunnels all across the city. They moved in perfect coordination, each team striking a different target. Tower stations went dark. Communication towers fell silent. Government buildings were surrounded before anyone inside knew what was happening. The Valoran people woke up to chaos. Alarms screamed through the streets. Soldiers ran in confusion, not understanding how the enemy had appeared in their midst. Their leaders broadcast desperate orders, but no one could hear them because the communication network was gone. Hannah watched the city fall into human hands piece by piece. Her plan was working. Her strategy was winning the war. Send the message, she said quietly. Admiral Yuna nodded and opened the channel to the Valoran fleet in orbit. This is Admiral Yuna of the human fleet. Your capital city is now under our control. Your leaders are surrounded. You have lost. Surrender now, and we will show mercy. Continue fighting, and we will show you none. The Valoran commanders did not believe her at first. It was impossible. No force could have reached the surface without being detected. But then they received images from the ground. They saw human soldiers standing in front of their most sacred buildings. They saw their citizens fleeing in terror. High Commander Vorath, who had sent the declaration of war, stared at the images in disbelief. His 4 eyes were wide with shock. His hands were trembling. How? He whispered. How did they do this? No one had an answer. On the surface, HFY walked through the halls of the Valoran Senate building. His soldiers had secured every room. The alien senators were kneeling on the floor, their hands behind their heads. HFY looked at them without hatred. He did not enjoy war. He did not celebrate killing, but he understood that sometimes force was necessary to end greater violence. You started this war, he said calmly. You threatened our homes and our families. You thought we were weak. You thought we would surrender. Now you understand the truth. He turned and walked to the window. Outside, the city was quiet. Human flags were being raised over captured buildings. The impossible had become real. Humans do not surrender, HFY said, more to himself than to the prisoners. Humans fight. And when we fight, we win. The siege of Valoran Prime was complete. The heart of the enemy empire had fallen, and the war was far from over, but the end was now in sight. Captain Minho had been sleeping for 10 years. He did not dream during that time. The cryosleep was too deep for dreams. One moment he was closing his eyes in a metal pod on a hidden station. The next moment, he was opening them to the sound of alarms and red lights. "Wake up, Captain," said a voice in his ear. "The war has started." Minho sat up slowly. His muscles were stiff. His head was foggy, but his training kicked in immediately. He had practiced this moment 1,000 times in simulations. He knew exactly what to do. Around him, other pods were opening. Men and women just like him were waking up. They were the Shadow Fleet, humanity's secret weapon. They had volunteered for this mission years ago. They had agreed to sleep in the cold darkness of space until they were needed. Now, they were needed. "Status report," Minho said as he pulled on his uniform. Lieutenant Bora appeared beside him. She was young, but her eyes were sharp and focused. She had been awake for only 3 minutes longer than Minho, but she had already gathered all the information. "The Valoran Empire declared war 6 hours ago," she said. "Admiral Yuna is leading the main fleet toward their border. But High Command wants us to do something different." "What?" Bora smiled. It was not a nice smile. "They want us to appear where the enemy least expects us. They want us to remind the Valorans that humans do not fight fair." Minho looked around the station. It was hidden inside a large asteroid at the edge of a system that had no name. The Valorans did not know this place existed. No one in the galaxy knew it existed except for the humans who had built it. There were 50 ships docked at the station. They were not large ships. They were not powerful ships. But they were fast and silent. They had been designed for one purpose: to strike from the shadows and disappear before the enemy could respond. "Get everyone ready," Minho said. "We launch in 1 hour." The Valorans had been watching human space for years. They had counted every ship. They had measured every weapon. They had calculated exactly how strong humanity was, and they had decided that victory would be easy. They were wrong. They had only counted the ships they could see. They had not counted the ships they could not see. They had not imagined that humans would hide weapons in places no sane species would think to look. When Minho's fleet launched from the asteroid, they did not fly toward the Valoran border. They flew around it. They used paths through empty space that took weeks to travel. They moved slowly and quietly, making sure that no sensor could detect them. On the Valoran homeworlds, life continued as normal. The war was happening far away, at the edge of human territory. The Valoran commanders sent their fleets to crush the human resistance. They expected victory within a month. Then Minho arrived. The first target was a supply station in the Korath system. It was deep inside Valoran space, far from the front lines. It held fuel and food and weapons for the Empire's fleet. It was guarded by only a small force because no one believed an enemy could ever reach it. Minho's ships came out of the darkness like ghosts. They had no lights. They made no noise. They did not appear on any scanner until they were already firing. The battle lasted 4 minutes. The Valoran guards did not even have time to send a distress signal. By the time anyone realized what had happened, the station was destroyed, and Minho's fleet had vanished back into the void. The news spread through the Valoran Empire like fire. A human force had struck deep inside their territory. No one knew how. No one knew where they came from. No one knew where they would strike next. Fear began to grow. Commander Vorath, the same alien who had sent the declaration of war, received the report on his flagship. He read it 3 times because he could not believe what he was seeing. "This is impossible," he said. "Our intelligence said the humans have no ships capable of reaching the Korath system. They should not have the technology for stealth attacks at this level." His advisors had no answers. They only had more reports. In the next 2 weeks, Minho's fleet struck 12 more targets. Fuel depots, communication relays, weapons factories. Each attack was quick and brutal. Each attack left no survivors. The Valoran commanders pulled ships from the front lines to protect their home systems. This was exactly what Minho wanted. Every ship that went back to guard supply lines was one less ship fighting Admiral Yuna's fleet at the border. Minho sat in his captain's chair and watched the stars pass by. His crew worked around him in perfect silence. They had trained together for years. They knew each other better than family. They moved like a single organism. "Captain," said Bora from her station, "we have a new target. High Command wants us to hit the shipyard at Valoran Prime." Minho raised an eyebrow. "The shipyard at their home world? That is heavily defended." "Yes, sir. But they believe the Valorans have pulled many ships to chase us. The defenses might be weaker than expected." Minho thought about it. The shipyard was where the Empire built its largest warships. Destroying it would cripple their ability to replace losses. It was a valuable target. But it was also extremely dangerous. What did the crew think? He asked. Bora looked around the bridge. Every face was calm. Every pair of eyes was steady. These were soldiers who had given up 10 years of their lives sleeping in the cold. They had not done that to play it safe. "They think we should do it, sir," Bora said. "They think we should show the galaxy what humans are capable of." Minho nodded slowly, then set a course for Valoran Prime. "We attack in 3 days." The journey was long and tense. They had to avoid patrol ships and sensor networks. They had to hide in the shadows of planets and drift silently through debris fields. But finally, they reached the heart of the enemy empire. Valoran Prime was a beautiful world. It had blue oceans and green continents. Cities of crystal and metal covered its surface. And in orbit, the great shipyard hung like a metal moon, producing the warships that had conquered 1,000 systems. Minho looked at it through his bridge window. It was magnificent. It was powerful. And in a few hours, it would be burning. "All ships," he said quietly. "This is Captain Minho. Today we strike at the heart of the enemy. Today we show them that nowhere is safe from humanity. Today we remind them why they should never have chosen war with us." The fleet moved forward. The attack began. The Valorans were not ready. They had never imagined that any enemy could reach this place. Their defenses were confused and slow. By the time they organized a response, Minho's ships had already done terrible damage. The shipyard burned. Explosions lit up the night sky of Valoran Prime. The people on the surface looked up and saw their symbol of power being destroyed by creatures they had thought were primitive and weak. Minho's fleet escaped before reinforcements could arrive. They vanished into the darkness the same way they had come. Behind them, they left chaos and fear and a message that the entire galaxy would hear. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was the predator, and the hunt had only just begun. The message came at midnight, Earth Standard Time. Every screen on every human world flickered at the same moment. Every radio crackled with the same cold voice. Every data terminal displayed the same alien face. Admiral Yuna stood on the bridge of the horizon, humanity's largest warship, when the transmission arrived. She was a tall woman with sharp eyes and gray hair cut short. She had served in the fleet for 30 years. She had seen many things, but she had never seen anything like this. The alien on the screen had blue skin and 4 eyes. Its voice was deep and filled with pride. It called itself High Commander Vorath of the Valoran Empire. "Humans of Earth," the alien said, "your expansion ends today. Your colonies will be absorbed. Your fleets will be destroyed. Your home world will kneel before the Empire. You have 1 cycle to surrender. If you refuse, we will take everything by force. This is not a request. This is your only warning." The transmission ended. The bridge fell silent. Yuna did not move. She did not speak. She simply stared at the empty screen for a long moment. Then, slowly, a smile appeared on her face. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting for something for a very long time. "Get me General Taiho," she said quietly. "Tell him the galaxy just made a very big mistake." On Earth, in the Great Hall of the High Command, General Taiho received the same message. He was an old man with a scarred face and steady hands. He had fought in 3 human wars before humanity ever reached the stars. He knew what war looked like. He knew what it cost. Around him sat the leaders of every human colony. They came from Mars and Europa. They came from the stations around Saturn and the mining worlds beyond Neptune. They came from the far colonies that took years to reach by the fastest ships. All of them had seen the alien broadcast. All of them were angry. "They think we are weak," said Governor Jisoo of Mars Colony. She was a young woman with fire in her eyes. "They think we will bow down and give them everything." "They have never studied our history," said Admiral Dowan, commander of the Outer Fleet. "They do not know what we are." General Taiho raised his hand. The room fell silent. "Let me tell you something about humanity," he said, his voice calm and steady. "We were not born on a paradise world. Earth was not kind to us. It gave us ice ages that lasted thousands of years. It gave us volcanoes that blocked out the sun. It gave us diseases that killed millions. It gave us predators that hunted us in the dark." He stood up slowly, his old bones creaking. "And we survived all of it. We did not just survive. We conquered. We tamed fire. We built cities. We split the atom. We reached the stars. Every single challenge that tried to destroy us only made us stronger." He looked around the room at every face. "These Valorans think they know war. They think they understand conflict. But they have never faced a species that was forged in blood and fire. They have never fought creatures that refused to die." Governor Jisoo leaned forward. "What are you saying, General?" Taiho smiled the same cold smile that Yuna had shown on the horizon. "I am saying that we do not surrender. I am saying that we accept their declaration. I am saying that we show the entire galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity." The vote was quick. Every colony, every station, every outpost voted the same way. The answer was war. Back on the horizon, Yuna received the news. She had expected it. She had known what the answer would be before anyone spoke. Humanity did not bow. Humanity did not break. Humanity fought. She walked to the main window of her bridge and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Valoran Empire was preparing for an easy victory. They were probably celebrating already. They were probably laughing at the primitive humans who had only been in space for a few hundred years. They did not know what was coming. "Lieutenant Junho," Yuna said without turning around. "Yes." "Admiral? Send a message to every human ship in the fleet. Tell them to activate Protocol Omega." Junho's eyes went wide. "Admiral, that protocol has never been used. It was created for exactly this situation," Yuna finished. "A full-scale war against a superior force. The Valorans have more ships. They have more territory. They have been in space for thousands of years. But they have never fought us." She finally turned to face her crew. Her eyes were hard as stone. "Wake up the sleeping ships. Activate the hidden stations. Call back every soldier, every pilot, every engineer. Humanity goes to war tonight." Across the galaxy, things began to move. On distant moons where nothing had stirred for decades, lights flickered on. In asteroid fields where debris floated in silence, engines roared to life. On forgotten stations at the edge of human space, soldiers opened their eyes and reached for their weapons. Humanity had always been paranoid. They had always prepared for the worst. They had built ships in secret. They'd had hidden weapons in places no one would think to look. They had trained soldiers who had never seen real combat, but who had practiced for this day their entire lives. The Valorans wanted war. They would get one dot in the Great Hall on Earth. General Taiho sent his own message to the stars. It was simple and short. To the Valoran Empire, we have received your declaration. We do not accept your terms. We do not surrender our colonies. We do not kneel before anyone. You have chosen war with humanity. Congratulations. You will now learn why that was the worst decision your empire has ever made. Yuna listened to the message on her bridge. She nodded once. Then she turned to her crew and spoke the words that would begin the greatest war the galaxy had ever seen. All ships, this is Admiral Yuna. Set course for Valoran space. We are not waiting for them to come to us. We are bringing the war to their doorstep. Move out. The horizon turned toward the distant stars. Behind it, 1,000 other ships fell into formation. And in the darkness of space, humanity began to march toward the enemy who had dared to threaten them. The Valons had no idea what they had awakened,